Hi everybody, Frank Novak here. We're very pleased to have with us the incumbent mayor of the city of Haverhill running for a 5th term, and that is the Honorable Mayor James J. Fiorentini. Welcome to the program, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Frank. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
As it turns out right now, in running for this particular election, this would be your 5th term, correct?
If I'm lucky enough to be reelected, yes.
Can I ask you this, if we can go over, because it's just a brief time that we happen to have with you, less than 15 minutes, if you could tell us some of the things as far as you have a list of accomplishments, I understand that, but besides the list of accomplishments, I'd like you to also get in on the flip side and talk about some of the goals that you'd like to go ahead and achieve, maybe that you haven't yet. But on your accomplishments, on your resume, you would say that you've been able to do what for the city of Haverhill during your tenure so far?
Well, the theme of my campaign is we've done a lot, but there's more to do. And the downtown renaissance, when I took over, not a single building downtown had been revitalized in over 35 years. Many of the old shoe factories had been unused for 50 years. Hamel Mills Lofts was once Hamel Leather Factory. It had been unused for about half a decade. What was once the AT&T building on Granite Street had been unused for 50 long years. We were able to take all of those sites, rezone downtown, aggressively bring in national developers, and bring in the largest infusion of private capital in the history of the city, about $150 million in new investment in our downtown, increasing our tax base by that and a number of other things we did by several $million. What was once the most polluted site in the history of this side of the river, which was the old Ted's for Tire shop downtown, is now an $11 million parking garage going to open in mid-October. What was the abandoned Hamel Leather Factory is now Hamel Mills Lofts, a $30 million development. So I'm very, very proud of what we've done downtown. I'm proud of what we've done to make people's quality of life a little bit better. We were one of the first communities in the state to institute curbside single-stream recycling. We were able to put the first new parks in Haverhill in over 35 years, the new rail trail in Bradford, and we'll be kicking off the new George Washington Landing Park in Bradford shortly. We're able to put playgrounds in some of the existing parks. But there's more to do. I want to concentrate on education. I'm very happy with what we did with the high school, a $32 million renovation, new state-of-the-art high school. Now we need to fix our middle schools and our elementary schools. I'm happy what we've done with the recycling program, but there's more to do. I'm happy with what we've done downtown, but I want to expand that to Merrimack Street and to River Street. I want to keep people's quality of life good here in Haverhill. I'm happy with what we've done with increasing curbside recycling and with our increased street sweeping program. But there's more to do. I want to sweep more streets, patch more potholes, keep people's quality of life up, and still keep Haverhill affordable. I'm very proud of the fact that Haverhill has one of the lowest tax rates in the Merrimack Valley. And the average single-family homeowner here in Haverhill pays the 4th lowest taxes of any community in the Merrimack Valley, from Lowell all the way around the Horn down to Lynn, and we pay less than the state average in taxes the average single-family homeowner does. When I took office 8 years ago, the average single-family homeowner paid a good deal more than the state average in taxes. I'm proud of that.
Mr. Mayor, can you tell us something about the challenges that you face on accomplishments that you'd like to see come to fruition but have not yet, and what are the obstacles that are in your way?
Well, our obstacle is summed up in one word, and that's money. With a state and national economy, we've been able to grow our economy by bringing in some manufacturers like Southwick and Magellan, by bringing in new retail stores. We brought in the largest retail stores in the history of the city in BJ's, Target, and Lowe's, but we really need to do more to expand our tax base. We face some monumental challenges over the next couple of years. We face, being mayor, I've said this before, is like going into a room with 3 or 4 or 5 closets, and each closet has a 500-pound gorilla in it. We have to cap our landfill, and that's going to be about a $17 million investment. We have to do some work on the flood wall. I think it's unnecessary, but the federal government is requiring us to do it, and that's going to be somewhere around a $3.6 or $4 million investment. We have new stormwater regulations that just don't make any sense to me, but the federal government says we have to sweep every street in the city twice. We're going to have to clean every storm drain in the city at least once, and we're going to have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in separating out stormwater from sewer. We have a similar problem, I call it the cousin to stormwater, and that's with CSOs, combined sewer overflow, and that's going to be somewhere around a $10 or $15 million investment that we're going to be required to make. Being able to balance all of these things and still keep people's quality of life where we'd like to keep it and keep our taxes reasonable, going to be a very major challenge over the next 2 years.
It's a practical matter. It seems as though the height of irony happens to be that if you're mandated by the federal government to do these things and see these things through as far as having them accomplished, and you don't have enough money to do so.
They don't care.
The federal government doesn't have enough money to do what they want to go ahead and do as well. So does this mean that would you have the automatic right to postpone some of these things?
Oh, not at all. The federal government has made it clear they will not postpone these requirements. They will not give us any leeway, nor will they give us any money to do them. So the burden is going to fall on the taxpayers of the city, and that's going to be a major challenge over the next couple of years. We will get it done. We've already put forth a stormwater plan that we think is reasonable. It's much less than what the federal government has required, but we're hoping we can get that approved. We're going to put together a CSO plan, again, that we think is reasonable. We're going to put forth plans that we think meet their regulations and allow us to do it in an affordable way, and we're confident.
When we take a look at other communities that have suffered circumstances that have dire economic circumstances, you've taken the city of Haverhill under your administration in very conservative ways in being able to trim down different departments and consolidate different items, seemingly to try to get the biggest bang for your buck. The fact is that in some cases you can keep trimming, but you can trim, in fact, too far, which other communities have seen be the case.
Well,
people may be worried that could that happen here?
Not if I'm mayor. You can trim your way from efficiency to inefficiency if you're not careful. But I'm proud of what we've done. We've cut our workforce by around 16% since I took office. And I submit to you that no one notices the difference. We haven't laid off a single police officer during the time that I've been mayor. We haven't closed a fire station. When I took office, the Bradford Fire Station was closed. I reopened it. What we have done is cut back on our City Hall workforce, outsourced, privatized, introduced mechanization and automation, and made government more efficient. We took our auditor's office that had 7 people and cut it back to 3 people. Our purchasing office that had 3 full-time people now has 1 half-time person we brought in from private industry. So we've introduced these efficiencies, but there's more to do. We need a new city website. We need to improve our technology in City Hall. We need to do more outsourcing and more privatization in order to meet the challenges that are ahead. I believe I have the experience in order to do that. This is not a job that that you can step into without experience, and I look forward to doing it.
On your wish list for what you'd like to be able to do in a forthcoming administration, if you're lucky enough to be elected, what is on that wish list, and how do you plan to accomplish those goals?
Well, I'd like to fix schools. I'd like to fix the middle schools and the elementary schools, and we hope to do that by what's called an ESCO, an energy service company, bringing in a private company to do an audit of our schools and seeing which repairs and improvements we can make that over the long term will pay for themselves with energy savings and energy improvements. This way we can live within our budget but still improve people's quality of life, and that's my long-term goal. I'd like to begin to fix some sidewalks here in the city of Haverhill. You know, we haven't fixed sidewalks in well over a decade, and I'd like to be able to do that. And we're hoping to use some Chapter 90 road money and some CDBG money in order to fix some sidewalks. So those are a couple of my goals. But generally, I want to keep people's quality of life up and keep their taxes at a reasonable level.
Recently, in recent months, your consolidation or your restructuring of the public safety department between the police department and the fire department has raised some eyebrows and raised some discussion in that regard. Is that from a cost-saving method that you plan to go ahead and implement, or is it more so from a sense of protocol and chain of command that you wanted to be able to have that done?
I think it's about government efficiency. I was very, very proud when I went over the other day to the Bradford Fire Station, and I saw a police officer in charge of renovating that station. Firemen are donating their time in order to help. We have the sheriff's crew in order to do the painting. They're painting the station. We're putting in a new boiler over there and a new roof, all at a minimal cost to the taxpayer. If you go down to the police station, we have a dispatch center right now where policemen answer police phones, firemen answer fire phones. We ought to have, if we're going to continue to meet the budget challenges of tomorrow, a combined dispatch center where everybody is trained to answer the calls of the other person. These are the types of things I'd like to accomplish. And by having a public safety department, I believe we can get there.
When we take a look at the different things that have been on the plate before and in the headlines in years past and in months past, one of the things that keeps reoccurring is the parking issue for downtown Haverhill. There have been several commissions over several of your administrations that, with different plans that have come to fruition, and it seems as though the feedback that we get is that there's been a large amount of frustration from people that happen to have been on some of these commissions. You've made clear, if I'm not mistaken, that you take the recommendations of the various commissions, but it's not absolute that ultimately the decision rests with you.
You have a strong form of government, and I'm always happy to listen. Listening is part of leading. But as long as I'm mayor, I'll make the decisions. And I haven't accepted all of the recommendations. One of the recommendations from one of the commissions was to charge everywhere, all of downtown, all the time, from 8 in the morning until 10 at night. Merrimack Street, Essex Street, Emerson Street. I didn't agree with that, and I didn't accept it.
You know, we're talking here about the chicken or the egg. Which comes first? Because if you're talking about being able to gain revenues, parking seems as though one source that you'd be able to go to on the one hand. On the other hand, the businesses that you invite to participate that are in the downtown area and want to be able to attract consumers don't want to be off-put by there being any adverse parking issues that they'd have to confront, whether perceptually or otherwise. Is it that sort of a problem that you're wrestling with in being able to arrive at a proper conclusion for what should be done for parking in downtown?
No, we came up with what I thought was a good plan, and I was very happy to get the council's approval on that. That has some charges somewhere downtown. All of the money will be used to improve downtown. The Merrimack Street parking garage is not up to the standards that I would like to see. It's not clean enough, it's not maintained well enough. The only way to do that is with money. And to charge, we're going to charge 50 cents an hour there. The first hour is free. The top western part of the deck will be free if anybody wants to walk down the stairs. And we'll use the money that we raise to keep that garage better maintained. Similarly, on Washington Street, on Wingate Street, and some of the lots there, and on the streets after 3 o'clock, we're going to use the money to keep downtown clean, keep it safe. That's the most important part of a downtown.
From the first period, from your first administration to the your present administration, what have you found to be of a surprise to you? What's, if, for lack of a better term, have you ever been blindsided by some particular items that you didn't know, you didn't expect these things to occur, but you had to confront them, you had to deal with them? We only have a couple of minutes left.
Well, early on in my first term, I was surprised by the intransigence of some of the unions, frankly. It was very, very difficult to persuade people to do what I thought was a no-brainer and had to be done, to go from a $5 copay to a $15 copay when you go to a doctor. $5 copays went out in the 1950s or 60s. That was 2,000 medicine at 1950s prices. And it took a long time to persuade people that if we're going to continue to keep Haverhill affordable, we need to ask people to sacrifice a little, pay just a little bit more when they go to a doctor. It took a long time, but we were able to get almost all the unions on board.
When there's been a lot in the news over the past couple of years, too, about generous pension circumstances that are afforded government workers, and we're talking on a federal, state, and maybe even on a local level. Have there been efforts for you to review what those pension circumstances happen to be?
Pensions are all set by the state government, and there is a new pension reform bill that I believe will pass the Massachusetts legislature. But if we're going to keep Haverhill affordable and keep the pensions for our retired workers, we need to make some pension reforms. Our pension costs went up by $900,000 last year. I think the reforms that are in the legislature, which will not affect any existing retiree, I think they're reasonable, and I believe they'll pass.
And on our last question, before we happen to wrap up, I've got a question for you relative to a quote, just to see if it's truly attributable to you, Mr. Mayor, and that happens to be, is it true that you may have said that you love the job of mayor so much that if you had your way, you'd be carried out feet first from that office, you know?
No, but I did say, I love this job, and they'll have to pry my fingers off the desk to get me out of here. That's what I said. And it is, being mayor is the greatest job in the world. I'm very, very proud to be mayor of Haverhill, and I respectfully and humbly ask people for their vote for another term. It's a job I love, and I really hope I have the opportunity to do it again.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much.
The Honorable James J. Fiorentini, President Mayor of the City of Haverhill, running for re-election.
Thanks.
Thank you.